So I thought let me just mention what the laws are, and then inshallah we'll begin today's lecture. So with regard to abortion, of course this is from His Eminence Ayatollah Al-Uzma Sayyid Ali Husseini As-Sistani, may Allah protect him and all the Maraji inshallah. He says that actually with regard to abortion we have to divide the whole area into two parts. The first part is with regard to those whose child in the womb has not reached 4 months, and therefore before the child is 4 months in the womb, after conception, then the law is that it is not allowed to abort the child, the fetus, unless it is causing the mother harm or excessive difficulty. Okay, so before 4 months it's not allowed unless it causes the mother harm or excessive difficulty, meaning it is more than what is normally endurable. That's what is meant by excessive difficulty. Not just a little bit difficult, but more than what is normally endurable. After 4 months, it's not allowed at all, even based on obligatory precaution, even if it's going to cause the mother harm or excessive difficulty. So what this means is that after 4 months, it's not allowed, but what he says is it's based on obligatory precaution, which means that you can refer to the next most learned mujtahid and see if the next most learned mujtahid allows abortion or not when it is causing the mother harm or excessive difficulty. So this is the ruling, and with regard to the whole 4 months thing, it's about the spirit and the soul coming into the fetus. So it is basically the time when there is this life. He even says in one of the question and answers that's there on his website that it is 4 months unless it can be proven otherwise through modern sort of like technology. So if modern technology proves otherwise, that the soul has come in, meaning there's life in that child, then that's when you would take the limit as to whether it can be aborted or not. So, but generally speaking, if modern technology doesn't prove otherwise, then the limit is 4 months. But of course, this is something that even if the child is aborted, in either situation, before 4 months, after 4 months, then there is diya to be paid. So diya is blood money, and therefore this blood money has to be paid to the child's heirs. So either the father, the mother, or whoever the heirs might be. If the diya is incumbent on the person who performs the abortion. So if it, say the mother herself does the abortion in some way, aborts the child, then the diya would be on the shoulders of the mother. If it's the father, the diya would be on the shoulders of the father. If it's the doctor, then the doctor has to pay the diya, the blood money. So whoever performs the abortion, that's the person on whose shoulders the abortion, the diya is incumbent for them to pay it. The amount of diya varies depending on the level of the growth of the fetus in the mother's womb. That is, it becomes very technical, so there's no need to go into what the diya is. But in any case, the main thing to know is that diya is wajib on the person who performs the abortion, even if the doctor performs abortion having been given that go ahead by the mother, for example, then still the doctor has to perform still has to pay the diya, the blood money, and it is a sinful thing to happen in all circumstances. But like I said, there is that proviso or there is that condition, if you like, if there is excessive harm or if there's hardship or difficulty, then at an excessive level, then it can be performed if it's done before 4 months. After 4 months, It is not allowed, even if there is this hardship and excessive difficulty, unless that person, that mother does ruju', refers to the next most learned mujtahid, and that next most learned mujtahid gives permission. Then it would be permitted. So these are the basic rules and the basic situation when it comes to abortion. Sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وله الحمد في الآخرة وهو الحكيم الخبير. والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث إلى كافة الورى شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته أئمة الهدى ومصابيح الدجى الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. Respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Tonight we'll be examining the story of Nabi Yusuf or Joseph as is known in English, ala nabiyyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam, and in particular we'll be relating it to how we are able to abstain and resist temptations. Inshallah, the questions that we will try to answer this evening are as follows. First of all, what do the Quran and traditions tell us about this great prophet, Nabi Yusuf? Secondly, what strategies does this great prophet employ when he is faced with temptations? Thirdly, who are the mukhlasin and what factors lead to the infiltration of shaitan into our souls? And finally, what strategies are we recommended to adopt when it comes to resisting temptations from the opposite gender? Inshallah, we'll begin our analysis of these four questions with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. With regard to the first question, what do the Quran and traditions tell us about Nabi Yusuf? Well, we are told that him and his father, they lived in Hebron in present-day Palestine, and his father is of course Nabi Yaqub, ala nabiyyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam. Nabi Yaqub had many children from a number of different wives, and the two children who were the most young out of all of the children were Nabi Yusuf and Binyamin, or Benjamin as he is known in English. These two were full brothers. They were born from one mother, and all the other brothers of Nabi Yusuf therefore were his half-brothers. So the only full brother that Nabi Yusuf had was Benjamin or Binyamin. All the others were half-brothers because although they shared the same father, the mothers were different. So now, with regard to this whole incident that we want to focus on the most during this lecture, what happens is that now the brothers are very jealous of the love of Nabi Yaqub towards Nabi Yusuf. Nabi Yaqub, Jacob as is known in English, he had this tremendous love, more love for Nabi Yusuf than he did for his other sons. And so because of this jealousy, these brothers, they get together and they devise a plot to try and get rid of this brother. The plot is that they would take him far off and they would throw him in a cistern, and then they would lie to their father that something has happened to their brother, and in this way, hopefully a caravan will come along will take him out of his cistern and take him to a far off land, so that they would not have to face the love of their father towards Nabi Yusuf. So this is what they do. They take him and they tell their father that we would like to do this. Nabi Yaqub reluctantly gives them permission, and then they throw him in this cistern. When he's in this cistern, they leave him there, they come back, and then they lie to their father. They say to him that he's been eaten by a wolf, and then they show him that shirt with all the sort of like blood, and they say that this is the blood of what has happened out of this incident between the wolf and Nabi Yusuf. So now let's turn our attention to what happens to Nabi Yusuf when he's in that cistern. He's there, and then this caravan does indeed come along, and the caravan picks him up from the cistern, and he is taken to Egypt. Over there, he is sold as a slave, and we are told that the person who buys him, his name is Aziz. He's a nobleman of Misr or Egypt. So now he is in this sort of like palace-like house that belongs to this person known as Aziz. Now in this house, he is a servant of Aziz and his wife Zuleika, or perhaps more correctly Zalika. But it is probably more well known in our community to pronounce the name as Zuleika, but it seems actually the more correct pronunciation is Zalika. In any case, Zalika, she now begins to become very much attracted to Nabi Yusuf. He is now 18 years of age. He is unmarried. He is extremely handsome and of brilliant character. So now she becomes attracted to him. She begins to solicit him. And we are told that she actually has this plot to try and attract his attention even more in terms of a physical attraction now. So what she does is when he's in that innermost chamber of the house that he is in, she closes all the doors and she now calls him towards her. So now this is the situation that we are going to pick up the whole story from. It is portrayed in verses 23 to 24 of Surah Yusuf. It is a very beautiful portrayal, and it tells us so much about what we must do in terms of resisting temptation. Now that we have put the whole situation and the whole incident in perspective, let's now try and answer the second question, and that is, what strategies does Nabi Yusuf employ to resist the temptations of Zalika in this very precarious situation that he finds himself in? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The verses 23 to 24 of Surah Yusuf tell us these 4 strategies that he employs. And these are brilliant strategies for us all whenever we are faced with any temptation, whether it is temptation of the opposite gender like this particular situation was, and in fact we'll discuss more about this towards the end of this lecture, or there are other types of temptations. Temptations of the world that we live in, of the dunya perhaps. It could be a materialistic type of worldly temptation that we are faced with. An indulgence here, an extravagance there, an extra thing that perhaps is a luxurious item that we don't need, but it is tempting us. It could be perhaps food and drink, just indulging a bit more. It could be, for example, the wrong type of music, the haram type of music. It could be perhaps things like attractions relating to power and position in society. It could be any of these things. What these 4 strategies teach us is how we can, inshallah, resist any type of temptation. But then, like I said, later on, we will focus more specifically on the temptations of the opposite gender. This was something that one of the brothers asked if I could mention a few words about, not particularly this whole aspect of resisting temptations of the opposite gender, but because it is the time of graduation. And inshallah, many of our younger members of the community will be going to other places to continue their education. Inshallah, we pray for their success, inshallah. But of course, these are times when we need to be very much aware of temptations that are out there, especially leaving home, perhaps for the first time, for a lengthy period at least. First time where perhaps our youngsters will not have the support of the community, perhaps that they are used to, or their parents, or of adults. They are going to be among people who might not be of the same faith, or of the same way of looking at life and the world, and so on and so forth. Perhaps they'll be amongst people who are very much inclined towards the opposite way of life, meaning going towards as much as possible and enjoying as much as possible what's out there in this world. So, in terms of offering some brotherly advice to them, inshallah, these few words will be of some benefit for them as well, and it will prepare them for when they, inshallah, take that move and move away and continue their education in other places. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So now, what are these 4 strategies that Nabi Yusuf employs, and how can they help us whenever we are faced with the temptations of this world? The first thing he does, قال. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quotes him as saying the following. He says, Ma'adallah. So what this is telling us is that Nabi Yusuf immediately does what is known as isti'adha. He says, refuge in Allah. Isti'adha simply means taking refuge in Allah. From whatever. From the accursed Satan, for example. When we say, A'udhu billah minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge in Allah from the outcast shaitan. So ma'adallah is seeking refuge in shaitan, in Allah from whatever the temptation might be. It could be shaitan, it could be like what we're discussing, temptations of the opposite gender, or worldly things, or other things like I mentioned. So he says ma'adallah. This is a brilliant first strategy for us all to bear in mind. Seeking refuge in Allah. Now what does this mean? What is the reality of isti'adha? Is it simply saying A'udhu billah minash shaitanir rajim? We are all accustomed to saying this, and alhamdulillah, it's a beautiful thing to say. I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed shaitan. But is it simply saying it, or is it much more than that? It is much more than simply saying it. Whenever we are faced with any type of danger, what do? Like, say for example, there was a tornado alert, like we had the other day. So this is now, we are faced with a danger. It's a precarious situation. We hear the sirens. Now what are we going to be doing in this situation? Are we just going to be saying, I must seek refuge from the tornado. I must seek refuge from the tornado. And just sitting there, just standing there, just doing as whatever we were doing. Are we going to be actually just saying it? Whoever hears us just saying it is going to think that we are so stupid. What is the point of you saying that? You must do something about it. You must actually go and seek refuge. Allah is not going to put some invisible shelter around you if you yourself don't take the steps to make your life safer. It's like just standing there saying, yes, there's a tornado there and I must seek refuge from that tornado. That is what we are doing. If we are just saying, A'udhu billah minash shaitanir rajim, and yet we're not doing anything practically about it. Somebody's going to think that really this is craziness. So what must we do in a normal situation? We must go down in the basement, for example. I've learned all these things since I've been here, as you can tell. I had no idea. But apparently there's all these guidelines that people are taught from a young age. So we don't face this type of situation in London, but apparently we must go down in the basement, move away from windows, for example. You know, we must actually seek shelter and refuge properly. It's the same thing with isti'adha. We must actually do isti'adha. Now, how would that be done? Look at this wonderful story. What does Nabi Yusuf do when he's seeking this isti'adha, when he says ma'adallah? He doesn't just say it. In verse 25 we are given an idea of what he does. We are told, وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابِ. What that means is, they raced towards the door. Who? Nabi Yusuf obviously raced towards the door. Zaliha chased him. So what did Nabi Yusuf do in practice? He didn't just say, A'udhu billah minash shaitani rajim, ma'adallah. He actually did something about it. He fled from the danger. That's what we must do whenever we are faced with temptation. We must take steps and move away from that dangerous situation. وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابِ. He fled. He ran towards the door, and of course it's mentioned in the dual form, وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابِ, because he is the one who fled, but she chased him. So Allah mentions it in the dual form. Both of them fled towards the door, but of course she was chasing him. So this is what is meant by isti'adha. You know, it reminds me of this story. Shaykh Murtaza Al-Ansari, the great Shaykh of fiqh and usul, that actually is known as the Khatamul Fuqaha wal Mujtahideen, the seal of the jurists and the mujtahids. Shaykh Murtaza Al-Ansari. He is the author of great works that still we study in the Hawza, like the great work Al-Rasail. This is something that is still studied in the Hawza today. And we have other brilliant works by this great Shaykh that are really, all of us who have studied in the Hawza, we are all indebted to him because of his great endeavors, especially in the field of fiqh and usul. In any case, this great Shaykh, let me just illustrate this incident that has been reported to highlight what is meant by isti'adha. So one day, this person is having a dream. And in his dream, he sees shaitan. In front of shaitan, there are a number of ropes. And he asks shaitan that, what are these ropes that I see in front of you? Shaitan replies that, well, I choose these ropes in order to throw over the people, and then I use them to draw them towards me. And he says that I use each rope appropriate to that person. So for the person who is already very much inclined towards me, I don't need a very thick rope. A thin rope will do. I throw it over them and I pull them even more towards me. But that person who is very much near to Allah, I'm paraphrasing, but this is what is basically meant, that person who is very close to Allah, I use a thicker rope. And then I use that one to draw him towards me. So then this person sees that in front of shaitan, there is a very thick rope. But this rope has been cut. So he asks shaitan that, what is that rope I see in front of you which has been cut? And he says that, well, last night, I wanted to throw that rope over Shaykh Murtaza Al-Ansari. And I tried to throw it over him 3 times. On each occasion though, this rope was cut. And so I was unable to draw him towards me. So now this person wakes up from this dream and he goes to Shaykh Murtaza Al-Ansari and he tells him about this dream that he saw. Shaykh Ansari says to him, I know what all that was about. Last night, my wife was giving birth. And I didn't have funds. I needed to obviously pay for certain things for this childbirth. But I didn't have any funds apart from some amana. Some money that had been entrusted to me. What I wanted to do was use that. So I went towards that amana, but then I did isti'adah. That this does not belong to me, it's been entrusted to me, and I came back. A second time, I wanted to use that amana. I went towards it, I came back. A third time, I went towards it, and I came back. I didn't use it in the end. And as it happens, actually, everything was fine. My wife gave birth and there was no problems. So now, this person realizes that this is what Shaitan was talking about. This is what is meant, my brothers and sisters, by isti'adah. Not that we just say it on our tongues. Not that we just say, A'udhu Billah, A'udhu Billah. But we actually move away from that danger. Just like Nabi Yusuf moved away from that danger, we must also take steps. Then Allah, inshaAllah, will confer His additional blessings and His additional protection. And He will save us from that hardship, from that evil temptation. But we must take those steps in the first place. It's no good just saying, A'udhu Billah, and we're not doing anything. Let me just finish that story because it ends with something quite humorous. The story as it ends is like this, and perhaps we can all relate it to it as well. This person asks Shaitan that, what about me? What type of robe do you have for me? And I'm sure it's perhaps something that we might ask Shaitan as well, dying to know, what about us? How close are we to Allah? Or how close are we to Shaitan? Thin robe, thick robe. You know what Shaitan replies? He replies to him, actually for you I don't even need a robe. Meaning I've already got you in my hands. So inshallah, mu'mineen, no one over here is like that. But it just gives us an idea of what true isti'adah is. It is not just saying it, it is actually taking steps to move away from that danger, and then Allah will confer His additional blessings on us with His protection. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that was the first thing that he does. He says, Ma'azallah. But then, what does he do? He says, Innahu Rabbi. It means that He is my Lord. So what is happening here? How does this help us to move away from temptation? He says that Allah is my Lord, meaning that he is grateful for all His bounties. He acknowledges that Allah, when he says Rabbi, he uses the word Rabb because Rabb means my Lord, my nourisher, my provider, my sustainer, the one who looks after me. Meaning that Allah has looked after me all of this time. Where was He? He was in that cistern. He was going to perish. He got taken out there. He got saved. And now he's in this wonderful palace. He appreciates the blessings of Allah. This is the second thing we must do. Appreciate the blessings that Allah has given us. When we are thinking about temptations, when there is something there. Now, of course, when we talk about temptations, it could be in the physical world, it could be online, which is happening more and more and more. Like I said, I want to try and offer some advice, especially to those who are going to be leaving for further education, but it applies to all of us in fact. We all are online a lot or less, but in any case, there are always temptations, whether it's online or in the physical world. How do we resist these temptations? Well, when we are faced with it, let's do isti'adah, but let's count our blessings. What hasn't Allah given us that we should not be thankful for? Our community, our health, our possessions, our parents, our faith, our wilayah, All of these things are brilliant blessings from Allah. You know what? Whenever we are ungrateful for the blessings that God has given us, automatically it prepares a gateway for temptations to come in. Think about it. Whenever we are ungrateful for what we have, we will always be more and more tempted for what we don't have. If we are grateful for what we have, then really we will be less tempted to go after all of those things, even those haram things, those things which are unlawful for us. The gateway to temptations and to succumb to temptations will be wide open whenever we are ungrateful to Allah's blessings. So this is what he does. Ma'adallah innahu Rabbi, acknowledging who Allah is and the fact that He provides for him. Like when he says, Ahsana mathwai. This is the third thing he does. He says that He has provided for me a wonderful abode. Again, counting His blessings. Where was he? Now where is he? So in effect, he has already done three things. Isti'adha, acknowledging that Allah is his Lord, He will look after him. And He has provided for him all of these wonderful things. So it means if Allah can provide for us up to now, He will inshallah provide for us all of these things, these temptations that are right there in front of me, but in a halal way. He will, for example, provide for me a spouse. The same temptation, the same carnal desires will be catered for, but in a halal way. Because He is my Lord, He has already provided for me all of these blessings. So why won't He provide for me in the future as well? I just need to resist this temporary temptation for an eternal benefit in the akhirah. And then what does he do finally? He says, La yuflihu dhalimun. The dhalimun, the wrongdoers, they are not going to be successful. They are not going to be felicitous. So what is this telling us? What does he do here? He thinks of the consequences. La yuflihu dhalimun. This is another fourth and final strategy for us all. Think about what the consequences will be. Not just in this world. In this world, for example, regret. This world, for example, the betrayal of perhaps somebody close to us, our family, of our faith, of our teachings, of our community. Why have we blackened our souls? Why have we lowered ourselves? Where has our self-respect gone? It's just thrown out because of a temporary pleasure. All of this we must think about. What about the akhirah? Even worse is there for us, awaiting us in the next world if we succumb to these temptations in a haram way, in an unlawful way. This is what Nabi Yusuf does. He thinks about the repercussions. La yuflihu dhalimun. He thinks about the accounting that we will have to do. It's not just when we are there in front of the internet. We think nobody's looking at us. No. Allah, at least Allah is looking at us. The Imam Az-Zahra Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Faraju Sharif, he's looking at us, and there will be accounting to be done in this world and in the world hereafter. Sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. So now the third question. Who are the mukhlasin? Why is this related to the mukhlasin? Well, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does in these verses is tells us the result of all of this. He says, كَذَلِكَ لِنَّصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلَصِينَ. He says, what an amazing result. After all of these four strategies that Nabi Yusuf adopts in front of this temptation, the temptation of someone who was reportedly so attractive, She herself is saying, come to me. She has locked the doors. Everything was right for this sin to take place. Everything was there. He's young, unmarried. Nobody would know. In a chamber, locked doors. After adopting these 4 strategies, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us what the result is. What success does he reach? He says, كَذَلِكَ thus لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ. Thus did we keep him away from all evil and all indecencies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him, just like he will protect us from all evil and indecencies. And then he says, إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلَصِينَ. Indeed, he was among our purified servants. Mukhlasin, not mukhlisin. In the Quran, we have mukhlis and we have mukhlas. Mukhlis, inshallah, everyone here is mukhlis. It means sincere. They do things for the sake of Allah. They are pure, inshallah. They do things sincerely. They are mukhlis. Mukhlas, there's only one vowel difference, but it is very different in meaning. Mukhlas is purified. They are at a higher level than the mukhlis because Allah has purified them. Because of the steps they have taken, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables them to reach even higher levels, and He calls them the mukhlasin. So this is the level of Nabi Yusuf, what Allah describes him as, those among His servants who have been purified. Sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. So you see, my brothers and sisters, it's all to do with us. We prepare the ground for shaitan to come into our souls. Shaitan, we are told in Surah Ibrahim, verse number 22, all he does is invite. He just invites. On the day of judgment, what will shaitan say? He will say that, well, I just invited you, but you accepted my invitation. You responded. Then he says, فَلَا تَلُومُونِي وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Inshallah, this will not be something that we hear on the day of judgment. He says, so don't blame me, blame yourselves. You let me in. All I did was give you the invitation. I presented the bait, but you took the bite. Inshallah, this will not be the situation with us. All he does is invites. But who is it that lets him in? It's us, it's our carnal desires. It's when we succumb to our carnal desires, the temporary temptations of this world, that's when we allow him in. Once he's in, then he wreaks all types of havoc in our souls. And he says that, well, this is your fault, don't blame me. And inshallah, this will be something that we won't be doing on the day of resurrection. We won't be blaming shaitan. Neither will we be blaming ourselves, because inshallah, we will have adopted these strategies, and we will inshallah be among those who are close to Allah's servitude, inshallah. Sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. So now let's look very quickly at the final question, and that is, what strategies can we adopt to inshallah protect ourselves from the temptations of the opposite gender? Here I would like to put forward a number of strategies, all again taken from the teachings of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and then we'll see even some fiqhi rulings as well from our great scholars as to what our position is with regard to something that is very commonly asked about, and that is shaking hands. So with regard to resisting the temptations of the opposite gender, first of all, the strategy we must adopt is lowering our gaze. Our eyesight is a primary gateway to our emotions. If we don't look at temptations in the first place, then we will have nipped the whole thing in the bud. We will not let it get to the next level. If we are sitting in front of our computers, if we are driving, if we are walking, if we're at work, we're at school, and we see something that attracts us, a member of the opposite gender, if we are going to allow our eyes to look at them, then we've already allowed Shaitan in. He comes in through our senses. He comes in through us, allowing him to come in. So the first thing to do is not allow that by lowering our gaze. We are told in Surah Nur, verses 30 and 31, that the believing men and the believing women, it's quite remarkable. Verse 30 talks about believing men lowering their gaze. Verse 31 talks about believing women lowering their gaze. It's both sides. It's not just on the male side or on the female side. It's both sides. They are those who lower their gaze. So this is the first thing we must do. Another thing that we can do is to talk about these temptations with someone trusted. So with a pious person, a scholar, parents, teachers, whoever we trust, they are religiously inclined, they are pious, they can give us good, wise advice. Let's talk to them. We should not think that, we have to deal with this by ourselves and that's it. So that's the second thing, talk to them. A third thing that we must do is to make sure we are avoiding flirtatious behavior and flirtatious language. This is something that I don't need to go into much detail. Everybody knows what that is. Flirt, not friendliness. We're not talking about being polite. Flirting with the other person in a way that it is somehow attracting, somehow going beyond the limits of what we are permitted. Flirtatious behavior. It could be something like just, high-fiving. Sometimes you think, what's wrong with just high-fiving a girl, high-fiving a boy? Well, it could be something that actually I'll come to in a moment when we talk about the contact between skin to skin and the effects of that. Or it could be perhaps just laughing, joking, smiling, all of that, a little bit too much. A little bit that goes beyond the boundaries of just being polite. This is not just being polite and friendly, it is flirtatious. Just so that, for example, you're attracting the other person. Keeping that eye contact a bit longer than is required. Just staring into the eyes a bit longer than you really need to. Why stare into the eyes? Why not just quickly cut eye contact? But no, sometimes a person will want to just maintain that eye contact and then smile and talk nicely and joke and try to get a laugh or a smile. Why? There's no need for that, and this is something that must be avoided. Another thing that must be avoided is a strategy, and that is physical contact. Avoiding physical contact. Sitting so close to each other. Brushing past each other, live contact, like I said, skin to skin contact. Now that is totally prohibited because skin to skin contact has an impact. Whether we acknowledge it, whether we admit it or not, skin to skin contact can, I'm not saying in all situations, can arouse, it can cause attraction. And then this might stay in the mind. Just like when we see certain things, it plays up on the mind afterwards. And this can develop into more dangerous things. So if you avoid it in the first place, then all the better. We are nipping it in the bud. And then finally, the whole thing about shaking hands. Because of course this is something which is part of the culture that we live in. So what is the ruling about shaking hands? The ruling is very much related to all of the above that I've been talking about. And that is shaking hands with a non-mahram someone who we are not permitted to have this physical contact with is not permitted. Now, the ruling from a fiqhi aspect, from a jurisprudential aspect is as follows. Again, this is from His Eminence Ayatollah Al-Uzma Sayyid Ali As-Sistani. Everybody must follow their own maraji, but his rulings, because the majority of people are doing his taqleed, so I thought let me mention his rulings about this. What he says is that he takes it step by step. He says, first of all, is it necessary for you to go to a place where you know that people will want to shake your hands? Is it necessary to go there? If the answer is no, then obviously don't go there in the first place. You see how precautious he is. If you don't have to go there, then avoid it. It's some type of gathering where you know it's not obligatory on you to go. It's not something really necessary for you to go. So why go there? You know that if you do go there, you're going to be put in a situation where you'll have to shake hands. So avoid going to that place. But what if the answer is yes? It's something very important. It's a work thing. It's a college thing. It's something that you just have to go. Alright, so now you go. He goes down the next level. He says if you have to go, still avoid shaking hands. Now here, again, we have to take it step by step. How can we avoid shaking hands? Well, there are a few things that we can do. Perhaps we can take the approach of heart to heart, not hand to hand. So instead of giving your hand, you put your hand there. And inshallah, the person will understand. Heart to heart, not hand to hand. Or perhaps just simply apologizing and saying that I'm very sorry, but I'm not allowed to shake your hand. Or for example, if it's possible, wearing gloves. That might not always be possible, but it is an option. Another good way is to carry something in your hand. The hand that is normally given to shake. So your right hand. Something, even if you don't have to carry it, I don't know, on that day take a briefcase. Take something, take a stack of books or something. So you can't shake hands. There are ways to get around these things. We are told that actually, it's all a matter of educating society. In England, it's become, because there are many more Muslims, especially in London, I can tell you for a fact that many non-Muslims, they, alhamdulillah, over the years, they have basically learned about Muslims more and more and more. And we have to give credit to those earlier Muslims who did this for us. Our parents and our grandparents, they prepared the situation for us today that makes it easier for us now. So many I'm not saying all of them, but in London at least there are so many Muslims, many non-Muslims know that Muslims do not shake hands. And it's fine. They accept it. There's no problem. Yes, initially, years and years ago, it was a problem. And perhaps it's that type of situation here today. But if we look at it like this, that inshallah we are preparing the foundations for future generations, for our children. If we start educating society, it's a bit tough. I know, it's not easy. But if we start doing it, the message will spread. That you know what, Muslims simply don't do this. Let's respect them, it's fine. And inshallah, we will maintain our politeness, our friendliness in other ways. They will know that this is not them being rude. It's just something in their religion. Let's respect them like they respect our religion. And we are told to respect all religions. Let's inshallah do that, and I don't think it will be a problem in the future, but we have to be the pioneers. We have to be the trailblazers for this type of education to come about in society, inshallah. The final thing that Ayatollah Sistani says is that if after all of this, so you have to go to that place, and now you have tried, but you really are in a situation where you have to shake hands, and there are two things here. It is excessively difficult for you. not to shake hands, or you are going to be in a lot of hardship. There's always these two things in our religion: excessive difficulty and hardship. If these apply, you're in that situation, then he says you are permitted to shake hands. So our religion is not a religion where it's like illa wala bud, this and nothing else, and that's it, and there's no way out. Our religion is not like that. Our religion always tries to make sure that we are acting in a way that will enable us to get closest to Allah by avoiding all temptations, not from only our side, but also avoiding temptations from the other side as well, enabling them to not get so attractive. So our religion is like that, but it's also a religion that enables certain concessions in certain situations. It's a very rational, logical, and very reasonable religion. It's not something that we should think our religion is so tough and we cannot live in this society and so on and so forth. As a summary, today we looked at those 4 questions. First of all, what do the Quran and traditions tell us about Nabi Yusuf? Then we looked at the whole area of how he avoided the temptations of Zali'ah by first seeking true ista'adha, secondly acknowledging Allah is his Lord and he will take care of him in a halal way, thirdly by acknowledging all the bounties of Allah, and fourthly remembering there's always going to be accounting in this world and in life hereafter. The mukhlas are different to the mukhlis. They are those who have been purified. Allah enabled Nabi Yusuf to get to that level because of his great resistance and his great piety when he was faced in precarious situations. And then finally, we looked at some strategies that we can use to avoid temptation and to resist temptations of the opposite gender. Let's pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He enables the Imam to come quickly, inshaAllah. Oh Allah, protect our Imam from all difficulties. Oh Allah, bring relief to all those in difficult situations. Oh Allah, forgive us and our forefathers for our sins. Oh Allah, enable us to follow in the footsteps of the great prophets mentioned in the Quran. Oh Allah, enable us to prepare the groundwork for future generations in our society. Oh Allah, enable us to resist all types of temptations, whether they be temptations of the opposite gender or of worldly things. And oh Allah, enable us to live and die with the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib.
Assalamu alaikum ya Abdullah, Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, Assalamu alaikum ya Nabil al-Mu'mineen, wa Nasir al-Wasiyin, Assalamu alaikum ya Fatima Az-Zahra, Sayyidat Nisa'il Alameen, Assalamu alaikum Sa'idi Shuhada'i Karbala, khususan Sayyidi Mawla Abul Fadl Abbas ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya Gharib al-Ghuraba, Assalamu alaikum ya Mu'in al-Du'afai wal-Fuqara, Assalamu alaikum ya Sultan ya Abul Hasan, ya Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya Sahib al-Asr wa zaman, Assalamu alaikum ya Sharik al-Quran, Assalamu alaikum ya Imam al-Ins wal-Jan, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajak, wa sallallahu ta'ala makhrajak wa zahurak. Assalamu alaikum wa ala abahi tayyibin at-tahirin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahumma salli ala